Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another Game of Thrones episode review right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. As always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Game of Thrones episode review. And this will be my review of Season 2, Episode 8, entitled The Prince of Winterfell. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different for this week's review. Instead of me just giving you all my thoughts on the story as it pertains to this week's episode, which I will do, but not to the same extent. Instead, I want to take this opportunity to actually critique this week's episode. You know, as many of you all know, I have not read the books. Despite the fact, I know you all don't know this, I actually have the entire series on audiobook. I own all 5 audiobooks, but I haven't listened to them yet. And the reason for that being is because I'm in the unique position to where I can objectively review these episodes. I can objectively review the series without constantly comparing it to the source material. Then again, I mean, I'm not a stickler for constantly comparing things to the source material. For proof of that, please see my comic book Hollywood movie reviews, where I do compare films to their comic book source material. So I'm not a huge stickler on it. Here's the thing though. Because I am not familiar with the source material, like I said, I'm allowed the unique opportunity to look at the TV series as it stands on its own merit, as it stands on its own accord, judging it as a television series and not as the television adaptation of A Song of Ice and Fire. I think with that comes the responsibility to critique the series not just as an adaptation, but as a television series in itself, just like any other television series. And I feel like I haven't really done that yet. Do you all understand where I'm going with this? I'm talking about judging it as a television series rather than the story, rather than an adaptation. You see what I'm saying? And so I feel that I have the responsibility to do that, especially for this week's episode, because this week's episode, in my personal opinion, was the least engaging, and seeing as how this is episode 8, and you know that we're 80% through this season, and so many of my expectations have not been met whatsoever so far, so I'm disappointed in that. But this episode really did make me feel underwhelmed and wanting, and I'll explain to you why. I've noticed that throughout this season especially, I've noticed that one of the problems I feel that the series face, that I felt it wasn't such of a problem in last season, was pacing. Pacing is just how it sounds. It's the pace of the series. More often than not, I would review the pacing of each episode, but I don't think I've ever tackled the pacing of the entire season, excuse me. The pacing of the entire season. And I gotta talk about that, because I understand the challenge of having to adapt a book, a novel, into a 10-episode season. I mean, keep in mind, most television series for a seasonal series, you're looking at a 13-episode minimum, you know? And if it's the type of series that runs, you know, fall and spring, you're looking at 24 to 26 episodes. Game of Thrones is only 10. So I understand the challenges of that. And I also know that in last season and also in this season, there are many scenes that's added to the series in order to provide exposition, in order to make the series run more cohesively, and those I appreciate. What I want to address are some of the scenes that me personally I feel like are unnecessary. And just me looking at this from a television perspective, I know that these scenes don't really add much weight to the series as a whole. Now, of course, you know, all season we've like earlier in the season we had the whole the sex position scenes, to use that term, you know, the sex scenes that have exposition in them. And of course, we all know that that's only there for shock value. That's only there, you know, to make the series a little bit more racy and, you know, whatnot with the nudity and the gratuitous sex scenes, so on and so forth. Normally, under normal situations, under normal circumstances, those type of scenes wouldn't really bug me. However, as I've said, we're 80% through the season and I haven't seen a lot of what I want to see. Instead, I got those scenes. Other scenes I want to talk about. One thing I noticed, or one thing that came to my attention, and I want to go ahead and give a brief shout out to fellow YouTuber and otaku faithful Melina Pendulum. If you're watching this video, hi. Because she recently did a video on adaptations, and she used Game of Thrones as an example of, well, pretty much as the basis for her discussion. And she mentioned that the storylines for Jon Snow and Daenerys, who, as you all know, two of my favorite characters, easily top 5 favorite characters, their storylines are being dragged out through this season, apparently. And the reason for that being is because their characters are popular. And Keith Harington and Emilia Clarke are popular members of the cast. So because of that, it's kind of like, you know, we get a little bit of Jon Snow and Daenerys in every episode, despite the fact that I've noticed a lot of times in their scenes, not much is happening. In last week's episode, the scenes with Jon and Ygritte, I think that's how you pronounce it, Ygritte, they were funny. I'll admit, I thought they were hilarious. But in hindsight, nothing really happened other than them just walking through the snow and Jon getting captured at the end. Do you see what I'm saying? But we had, what, 3 to 4 scenes with them last week that, honestly, I felt didn't need to be there. There were a few scenes earlier in the season with Daenerys that I felt didn't need to be there. What I'm saying is, the sex position scenes and these stretched out storyline scenes with Jon and Dany, they all add to the problem of the series pacing. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. Okay. And every television series runs into this at some point in time. But as I said, multiple things I wanted to see, I'm not getting. Where the hell is Melisandre? Is she dead? Because we haven't seen her since, what, episode 3? This is the first time we've seen Stannis and Davos in, what, 3 episodes, I believe. We haven't seen them in 3 episodes. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Tywin Arya scenes. I love those, right? But nothing happened. Tywin up and and left as swiftly as he came, and Arya and her friends just walked out of Harrenhal. What did those scenes, what purpose did those scenes play in the overall story? Especially with Ty, I mean, yeah, we got a little backstory on Tywin, and we got some interesting banter. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it wasn't entertaining. It was entertaining. What I'm saying is, it did not add much to the overall plot, which, let's face it, this is an overarching story, and it didn't add anything to the table. You know, it's like having a potluck and one of your friends comes over, but they don't bring anything to add to it. You see what I'm saying? All those things contribute to the series' problem with pacing. Earlier in the season, it moved very slow. Then, in the last few episodes, it sped up. This episode, I felt they slowed things down again. And is this just supposed to be, you know, am I supposed to feel this way because it's the calm before the storm? Because Blackwater is happening in the next 2 episodes? Even the scene with Robb and I do not know the character's name, but his little infatuation right now. What did that serve to the overarching plot? I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm going to keep saying that because this is how I feel. And like I said, all these things pretty much resulted in a very underwhelming mood for me. I'm very underwhelmed right now. And I gotta tell you, unless this series delivers, unless they really deliver with Blackwater, I'm pretty damn disappointed in this season. Like I said, expectations weren't met, and I don't even think my expectations were too high either. I don't think that was the case. Yeah, I don't think I was out of line for expecting some of the things I was expecting. I feel cheated is the thing. So that's that. So few comments on a few of the things that happened in this week's episode. I don't have many comments because, like I said, very underwhelming episode. The whole Catelyn setting free Jaime thing, I'm sorry, but that stupidity kind of hindered the rest of the episode for me. Like, after that, I couldn't really enjoy the rest of the episode. I'm sorry, that's as dumb as you can get. You know, I criticized Jaime for being dumb when he tried to escape in last week's episode. I'm sorry, Catelyn, I don't even know what to say about that anymore. And yeah, Catelyn has fallen out of favor with me. Maybe I was thinking too highly of her character. Maybe I was giving her more credit than I should have. But I would have never thought Catelyn to do something like that. And yeah, that was just fucking stupid. That's fucking stupid. That was just dumb. That was stupid. Let me see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, funny enough, I didn't know that Theon's sister was his elder sister. I thought she was his younger sister. That was actually, I'm glad they cleared that up for me, because now I kind of know why she treats Theon the way she does, because he's the baby. Now it makes more sense. I thought she was the baby, and that's kind of why Theon was so pissed off that Balin thought so highly of his sister, was, you know, because it's like, well, not only is she a girl, but, you know, I thought she was younger than him. It would have made what I'm saying is that's what I kind of expected. You know, it's like Theon's whole thing was like, oh, but she's a girl. And then and to top it off, it's like, well, she's my kid sister, but that's not the case. He's the kid brother. So that was interesting, and I'm glad they cleared that up. I'm glad they cleared that up. Another one to add to the waste column. Once again, another scene with Robb that, while it served some purpose, let me put it to you all like this. Is this where Robb's character arc ends? Because if it is, I gotta ask you. No, I'll just be beating a dead horse if I keep coming back to the point that Robb is a useless fucking character, and every time she's on screen, it's a useless fucking scene. I keep coming back to that, and I don't want to harbor on that point any more than I already have. But once again, let me see. Anything else that I want to talk about? Well, like I mentioned, Jon and Dany scenes. You know, you could have just as easily thrown them into last week's episode, and anywho, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to talk about. Because like I said, to be honest with you all, I could have done without this episode. I really could have. I could have done without this episode. No, that might be it. I mean, the whole Bran Rickon thing, I was right about that from last week's episode. I'm not even gonna bring that up. That was just stupidity. The whole Arya Jaqen thing, I guess I can bring up, but I mean, that whole thing was just kind of a means to an end. It's like Arya doesn't have use of Jaqen anymore, so it's time to leave. Okay? Yeah. I mean, what else could I possibly talk about? Like I said, very underwhelming episode. Very underwhelming. So that is going to wrap it up for me this week. Yeah, that's it. So this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, bringing you a very underwhelming review for a very underwhelming episode. I know, it sucks, but yeah. So, until next week, hopefully, like I said, episodes 9 and 10, Blackwater, hopefully, the series will deliver. They'll pick shit up. I'll have something to talk about, hopefully. Let's pray to the old gods and the new that I will have something to talk about. So until then, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and until next week, peace.